3, 4. Hello, welcome to another video. Today I'd like to talk about the dirty word, practice, the P word. It's the thing that separates the men from the boys, I suppose. It's the thing that nobody sort of really likes to get into. You know, people like to talk about buying new guitars, new equipment and all that kind of thing, but the old saying is that, you know, an hour in the woodshed every day solves all tonal issues, and I absolutely 100% agree with that. So cool, let's get straight into it. I've got a list of stuff here. I'm just going to cover them all. I'm not going to go massively in depth on each one because, to be honest, every single point I've got written down here could quite easily be a video on its own. So first thing then, the first thing I did there that you've just seen me do in the intro, I was playing along to a metronome. Hopefully you could hear the metronome. I was playing like a jazz blues progression with the metronome on the 2 and 4. So that's a really good thing to do. So using a metronome in general, it can be very useful. A lot of, you know, there's a lot of mixed opinions on metronome use. Some people say it creates a stiff feel and all that sort of thing. But to be honest, in my experience, you can always tell guys who play with a metronome in a good way. They've just got good timing in general. The using it on the 2 and 4 thing that I was doing, it was set to a relatively low speed, about 90 beats per minute. That's great for improving your time feel and more importantly ensuring that you don't rush too much. Guitarists, myself included, we're all very guilty of rushing all the time, so that it really helps you kind of sit back a bit more and helps you kind of not sit like really far ahead of the beat, because when the beat's on the 2 and 4 it just swings a bit more and it really forces you to stay in your lane, if you like. Obviously, you know, that's just one use. That's the way I like to use a metronome. You can use them to help build speed and things like that if you're trying to work on a sort of particularly technical thing that you're trying to get up, getting the speed up and the proficiency and the cleanliness of it. They are good for that as well. A lot of the rock guys, myself included, back in the day, used to use them for those kind of picking exercises and stuff. But for me, the biggest benefit of using a metronome is actually to bring the quicker bits down, because we all have a tendency to play the bits, you know, the familiar patterns and things faster than everything else, and when we truly improvise, that can sometimes be a bit slower. So it's nice to bring the quicker bits down to the level that everything else is at, and the metronome kind of forces you into that. Okay, cool, so that's a metronome. Next thing, big thing, have a goal in mind when you practice. You should be working towards something. A lot of people just pick the guitar up, aimlessly play, they'll noodle around for an hour and put the guitar down, great, practice done. Unfortunately, they're the same people who never improve sort of year upon year, because you tend to find they just play the stuff they can already play all the time. Whilst that's fun, unfortunately you don't really get much better, or you just tend to get quite good at the one thing you do. If that can be cool as well, but if you want to be a bit more versatile and have a wider skill set and perfect certain things as much as you can, then you need to really be practicing things that you're weak at. That's a really important point. So that could be a point on its own. Practice the stuff you're weak at, not the stuff you already know. I'm a big believer in hammering one thing at a time. Mike Walker told me that once, and it really resonated with me in my experience as well. I often get students who come to me and they'll say things like, yeah, I know all my scales, all my modes, all my chords and all that stuff. And I go, alright, oh cool, alright, so let's have a look then. And I'll say, right, play me, I don't know, harmonic minor scale, position 3. And they'll go, yeah, and what it really happens is they don't really know it. They sort of know it, but they don't really know it. So a great analogy that Mike once said was, so if you had a goal in mind, say it was be really proficient with melodic minor scales. If that's all you did for a solid month, every day you picked the guitar and you just hammered melodic minor, you'd be the king of melodic minor island within that month. That month's going to pass anyway, but if you've spent that time dicking around, for want of a better term, and just playing stuff you can already play, then that time's passed and you haven't really achieved anything. So hammering one concept is really, really useful. That applies to everything. If you're fortunate to do other things as well, not just music, and you have other interests and things that you do, you'll realise that to get better at anything, you just have to hammer that one particular thing. It goes for, you know, everything in life. Okay, cool. So the next thing is consistency. That kind of ties in with the last one. You get better at things that you're consistent at. If you do stuff every day, it becomes a habit. And then once something becomes a habit, it's hard to break free from that. And then obviously your progression, is way faster, way faster. That's pretty self-explanatory, really. Just do stuff that you pick something that you can be consistent with. Set a time aside every day if you can, or even an amount of time, and then stick to that. Be really consistent, and you'll get your best results. That goes for anything, whether it's lifting weights, losing weight, sticking to a diet, for example, getting better on the guitar, learning a language. It doesn't really matter. Any skill or anything that you want to achieve, consistency is key. The most successful people are people who stick with things and be consistent. Cool. So a couple of other ones that seem obvious but people don't always do. Turn off your distractions. It's very easy to stick YouTube on and noodle along with videos, be watching a podcast or something like that, watching Joe Rogan in the background while we noodle along. We kind of fool ourselves into thinking we're practicing. We know we're not really, but we have this sort of guitar time and we procrastinate. We're terrible for it, especially in this modern day and age when there's so many distractions. Switch the computer off, or if you're going to use it productively. I'll get into that in a minute, but don't do other things. Try and switch your phone off, or just even ignore it for a while. What you'll find is that if you can stick to, say, I don't know, 20 minutes of absolutely focused, super focused practice, you'll get so much done. You get way more done in that 20 minutes than you get in about 2-3 hours of just noodling around. So it's a focus thing, really. Train yourself to focus. It's very difficult in this day and age. People's attention spans are like goldfish nowadays, but focus, massive. Cool. So another big thing that's been very useful to me over the years, I've been very lucky to be playing in bands and stuff since I was like 12, and gigging quite actively in that time, over I don't know how many years that is now, 16, 17 years, something like that. So what I've got from that is I've been able to play with other musicians on a regular basis. So whether that's rehearsals, jamming, or gigs. I'm in a couple of active bands, but the main band, my trio, we gig all the time. We're out every week, and it's brilliant for me because what it does is it gives me a vehicle to try out the things I've been practicing. Or even better still, if I go for something on a gig, it doesn't quite come out, I can take that into the practice room and that'll form part of what I'm going to practice for the week. And then try and get it better for next time. Obviously, all the other added benefits of practicing and playing with other people. Music's a very social thing, and being able to play with other musicians brings you on so much quicker. I remember when I first went to uni, and a lot of guys there had never really been in gigging bands, so the performance aspect of it, everyone was really nervous, whereas to me, I'd been doing it for years, so I had a bit of an advantage there. Not that necessarily made me better than all of those, it just gave me that bit of an edge when it came to the performance side of things, and being able to gel with other musicians, and being able to use my musical knowledge and things I'd developed over the years in a live situation, which to me is what it's all about. It might not be for you, but even if you can just get together with a few of your mates, have a jam, you'll find you get all sorts of good stuff from that. So another big thing, little and often versus long sessions. It's a bit of an interesting one, that, because different people tend to respond to this differently. I used to do the whole thing, you know, growing up, doing the bulk of my practicing, where I'll just play all night when I got in from school. I play at school, hours and hours every day, and I think there's a lot of benefit in doing that, especially early on in your playing, whether you, doesn't matter if you're young or old, but it's useful to sort of build up those hours and just put the time in. But especially nowadays, from what I was saying earlier, people's attention spans are much shorter now, so some people benefit much more from doing short stints. So maybe I don't know, if you had an hour and 20 minutes throughout the day, maybe you could break that up into 4 20-minute sections throughout the day, 4 20-minute little practice sessions, and you might find that your brain's a little bit more switched on, because you don't get that mental fatigue, and you might find you'll be able to focus a bit more and that sort of thing. But try both approaches out. You know, try practicing for the solid hour, 2 hours, however long you've got, if you're lucky enough to have that sort of time in one go. And if not, if you push for time, try breaking it up, but just get the hours in however you can, really. But some people respond really well to short bursts every day. Okay, cool. So another big thing, make sure you've got all your stuff at hand. So have your guitar on a stand, have your music that you're working on a music stand. Make sure everything's out and accessible. You'll find you play and practice a lot more. The old saying, out of sight, out of mind, comes to mind here. Funnily enough, if your guitar's away in a case, your amp's under the stairs and all that, it's a pain in the arse to get it all out and set it up. Have it all ready. If you're lucky enough to have a music room or whatever like I have, you can have it all set up all the time, and there's much more incentive to practice if you've got a nice space to do that in. You'll find that it's just a bit more inspiring as well if you've got a nice setting to do it in, rather than sort of, you know, having to play in the living room while other people are trying to watch TV and that sort of thing. So that's always useful. Have everything out to hand. When I was younger and sort of trying to get my sight reading together for college and all that sort of stuff, one of my teachers at uni said, "What, you know, a really good thing to do is to just have a piece of music on your music stand that you're always working on. Just keep it on there all the time. Every time you pick your guitar up, just play through it, then change the piece of music the next day." And there's all sorts of sites online that generate random pieces of music. You can even get them emailed to your inbox for free and stuff every day, just to practice that skill. But yeah, just having it there and available all the time makes life easier, basically. Cool. Next thing is positive visualization. So that's a bit of a hippie thing, really. It's a very American thing. But just to sit there and visualize yourself playing well. I've tried this, and I actually think it does work, if I'm honest. If I'm sort of killing time, if I'm driving or something like that to a gig, or doing a long distance, I often think about the gig and how I'm going to play that night. And I often find if I try and get myself in a good frame of mind, and sort of, if even if particularly things haven't gone well in the week, you've had a stressful week, I find that if I just sort of try and get myself into a calm state and think, okay, I'm going to enjoy this, I'm going to play well, I generally do play better. You know, it's the jury's out whether it really works or not, but even if it's a placebo effect, if it makes you play better, it's worth doing, I think. The last thing really is, what do you do if you've only got a very short amount of time to practice, like 10 minutes or something like that? Well, a couple of things. A good thing to do is just to maybe get hold of the guitar and bend some strings, keep your calluses hard. That's one little thing. But the best thing to do for me, I think, in my experience, is just try and learn a song. You know, if you're into jazz or whatever, learn a standard, or blues, learn a blues standard, just learn a song, because there's so much in a song. You're learning harmony, melody, rhythm, you're working on your memory, feel, you can be learning a new style. There's so much you can get from that, you'll think about new ways to play over the changes. There's all sorts of cool stuff you can get from learning a tune. You're kind of working on loads of topics at once, and you're building your repertoire at the same time. So, like, if you've only got a short amount of time, just learn some tunes. You won't regret that. It's always served me well in the past. Cool. Thanks very much for that, guys. So if there's any other things I've missed out that you think that you could add to this list of useful tips for practicing and how to get better as a guitar player, then drop them in the comments. I'd be interested to see what you think. And if you've liked this video, if any of these things sort of get you thinking about practice and how you can maybe make your practice time a bit more effective, then please like the channel, subscribe and all that good stuff. Helps me out, and we'll see you again for the next video. Cheers, thank you.